While I lived in my car and worked 2 jobs to pay for college, my rich uncle found out, and my cousins were busy mocking me to everyone. So, hey Reddit. Buckle up because this might take a while. I'm a 19-year-old girl, and I just need to get all this out of my head before it overflows. Never thought I'd be spilling my life story on the internet, but here we are. So, let's dive in. Everything kicked off when my dad was diagnosed with cancer. I was 14, barely getting my footing in high school, thinking algebra was the biggest problem I'd ever face. Dad had been tired, but we just thought it was work stress catching up to him. Then, one regular Tuesday after school, my mom pulled me aside in the kitchen to drop the bomb. Dad had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The next 6 months felt like I was watching someone else's life play out on a movie screen. Dad got really sick, really fast, lost his hair, lost a ton of weight. His favorite Chicago Bears jersey ended up looking like a 10 on him. But he stayed so positive, always trying to joke around. He even helped me with my math homework, even when he could barely sit up. The last thing he said to me was, "Don't let your mom's cooking kill you before I get back," right before he was taken to the hospital for the last time. Classic dad, always trying to lighten the mood. He passed away on a Thursday, which I remember because it was supposed to be our pizza night, something we'd done since I was a kid. But instead of enjoying a deep dish, I found myself sitting in a hospital waiting room with those harsh fluorescent lights, watching my mom break down while she called our family. I thought that was rock bottom, but boy, was I wrong. After Dad passed, Mom kind of lost it. She started dating really soon after, just 2 months later, saying she needed to feel alive again. That's when Derek came into the picture. He's this rich real estate guy, and he was always around, showering Mom with gifts and taking her on trips. I tried to be supportive because I knew Dad wouldn't want her to be miserable forever, right? But then, she married Derek less than a year after Dad died. And the kicker? She didn't even tell me they were engaged. I found out when she handed me a junior bridesmaid dress to try on. The wedding was this swanky event at a country club in Newport Beach, and I spent most of it hiding in the bathroom, trying not to lose it. After that, everything just shifted. Mom and Derek moved into his massive Newport Beach house, complete with a pool and tennis court. But guess what? There wasn't room for me. Mom said I'd be more comfortable living with Dad's sister, Aunt Lisa, in Chicago. More comfortable for who, exactly? So off to Chicago I went, like some package no one wanted. Aunt Lisa has this big house in Lincoln Park with Uncle Marcus and my cousins, Michael and Rebecca, who are a bit older than me. We used to be super close as kids, spending summers making up games and building blanket forts. But when I actually moved in, everything changed. I went from being their fun summer cousin to feeling like this unwanted extra. Michael would accidentally knock my stuff over all the time, and Rebecca would drop little hints about how her clothes were too nice to lend me when I first arrived without winter gear. Aunt Lisa was the worst, constantly reminding me I was a burden and even charging me rent while I was still in high school. Seriously, who does that? The messed up part? My mom basically vanished from my life. She'd send some money occasionally, not even enough to cover Aunt Lisa's rent, and when I tried calling, she was always too busy living her new life, at yoga, at charity events, just too busy to talk to her own kid. I'd see Facebook photos of her and Derek on fancy vacations or at lavish parties, living it up while I felt like I didn't exist. She even archived all our old family photos with Dad and me because they didn't match her new aesthetic. It was like I was just outdated furniture that didn't fit her new decor. I started having these dreams where everything was just back to normal, back in our old kitchen. But I'd always wake up in this strange bedroom at Aunt Lisa's, surrounded by fancy wallpaper that cost more than my entire wardrobe, feeling like I had lost both parents, not just one. After about a month at Aunt Lisa's, she hit me with a rent increase because of property taxes or whatever. Here I am, 15, and suddenly I need a job. That's when Rebecca oh so helpfully told me about a 24-hour laundromat hiring in what she called the sketchy part of Chicago. It's this rundown place. So, there I was, squeezed between a shutdown dollar store and this super shady phone repair place. I'm not even kidding, I doubt they fix any phones there. The owner, this old dude named Jerry, checks me out and says, "You look way too young to work the graveyard shift." But I was like, hey, I can start tonight, and I'm not picky about the pay. Suddenly, my age wasn't a problem anymore. That's how my life turned into this wild, anxiety-ridden schedule. I worked from midnight to 6 a.m. at this laundromat, dealing with the weirdest people you could imagine. The folks weren't even the worst part, it was the friggin' cold. The heating was a joke, and Chicago winters are brutal. I had to layer up in like 3 hoodies to survive my shifts. Didn't see that in the job description, did ya? But just one job wasn't gonna cut it for Aunt Lisa's rent and the basics like food and school stuff. So I picked up shifts at this gas station from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. That's where my cousins decided to make my life super fun. Quick Stop was right next to their fancy private school, where I'm sure the tuition cost more than I'd make in a year. Michael and his buds thought it was hilarious to come in and trash the place during my shifts. They'd mess up the chip displays I just set up, spill Slurpees all over, and leave open jerky bags everywhere. Rebecca was sneakier, though. She'd roll in with her cheerleader friends and talk loudly about how awful my job was, like I wasn't even there. "Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine working here. I'd literally die," they'd say. Or they'd diss my uniform for being so polyester. Then, they'd snap embarrassing photos of me cleaning up their messes and post them online. School was rough, too. I went to the local public high school, and somehow Rebecca made sure everyone knew about my jobs. People left quarters on my desk for laundry, and someone even slapped a washer girl tag on my locker. Real original, folks. Thanks for that. I barely stayed awake in class, juggling midnight shifts, homework, and another job. My grades slipped, and teachers kept nudging me about my home life. I just told them I was getting used to the move. The one decent thing about the laundromat gig was meeting this homeless guy named Pete. He was different from the usual oddballs. He taught me how to fix the quarter machine when it jammed and which customers to cut a little slack if they were a quarter short. One night, Pete said, "Kid, you're living life on expert mode right now." Made me laugh for the first time in weeks. He vanished when winter got bad, and I still wonder what happened to him. Uncle Marcus owned the place but was never around. He had some property management firm handling things. Sometimes I'd see fancy cars cruising by slowly late at night. I later found out he sent people to check up on the place. So I guess he was keeping tabs on me more than I realized. Meanwhile, Mom was sending random texts like "hope you're doing well," but never answered her phone when I called. Her Instagram was full of yacht parties and charity gala pics with Derek. Must be nice having time for charity while your kid's grinding away at 2 jobs. Aunt Lisa kept finding excuses to raise the rent, utilities, HOA fees, prime real estate nonsense. Like, sure, Aunt Lisa, that basement room with weird mushrooms growing out of the corner is real estate gold. I stashed cash in this old teddy bear Dad gave me before he passed away. I had this plan to save up and get my own place. But every time I got close to a decent savings, something came up: school fees, winter boots after mine fell apart, Michael backing into my car. Then one day, I came back from my shift to find my room wrecked. The bear was torn open, stuffing everywhere, and all my savings gone. Rebecca claimed she was just cleaning and denied knowing about the money. Yeah, sure. That same week, Aunt Lisa announced the rent was going up big time, like double. Apparently, property values were skyrocketing. I did the math and realized there was no way I could afford it, even with both jobs. But here's the kicker: I was taking some classes at the local community college, nothing major, just basic stuff to get ahead while still in high school. The counselor there said I might be able to. So, I was at a crossroads, right? I could get more financial aid if I took more classes, but that meant making a tough choice. Aunt Lisa was charging an arm and a leg for rent, so I had to figure out my priorities. In the end, I picked school. I didn't have much of a plan, only knew I couldn't keep going the way I was. Packed up whatever fit in my old Toyota. That car was something else, rust spots everywhere, and the heater only worked if you gave the dashboard a good kick. But hey, it was mine. Sleeping in the car that first night was surprisingly chill. I found a spot behind the laundromat, used my work keys to sneak in and use the bathroom. My setup was pretty simple: the driver's seat reclined all the way back, my backpack as a pillow, and layers of lost and found blankets. I thought to myself, hey, this ain't so bad. But then winter rolled in. And not just any winter, real Chicago winter, where your breath freezes in midair. My car battery started giving out because of the cold, so running the heater wasn't really an option. The hardest part wasn't even the cold or the lack of sleep, it was trying to act normal at school. Imagine explaining to your chemistry teacher why your homework smells like detergent or why you're rocking the same 3 outfits on repeat. Then there was my school counselor, always trying to chat, but what was I supposed to say? Oh yeah, I'm living in my car, but don't worry, it's a premium alley out back. Then came my cousin Michael with his detective vibes. I guess he got a little too curious about why I wasn't around Lisa's place anymore. Next thing I knew, he was following me after work and started posting TikToks about my homeless cousin. He turned my life into a mini documentary. It went viral with his rich kid crowd, and soon there were people driving by, honking and throwing things at my car. The cops got in on it too, knocking on my window some nights with the usual, "You can't sleep here, miss." So, I ended up driving in circles until they left, praying my gas tank would last another day. Then there was this black SUV that started showing up. Always parked across the street, with tinted windows and the engine running. At first, I thought it was the cops or some shady guy. But they just sat there, never bothered me, just watched. One night it got ridiculously cold, like minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit. The kind of cold that makes your bones ache. My car wouldn't start, the phone was dead, and the laundromat was closed for repairs. I thought, well, this is it. This is how I go. Wrapped in every piece of clothing I owned, I tried to think warm thoughts. That's when I heard a knock on my window. Looked up, and there's Uncle Marcus, standing in the snow like it's no big deal. He just says, "I think we need to talk." Turns out, the SUV was his. He'd been watching me through security cameras, sending people to check on me. Said he wanted to see what I could handle. Who does that? But by then, I was too cold to care. So, there I was, halfway to becoming a human popsicle, and Marcus is offering me a warmer place. My office is better heating, he says, like it's the most normal thing ever. His office was this little spot above the laundromat. I'd never noticed it before. It had everything: a desk, mini fridge, coffee maker, even a tiny bathroom. As I warmed my fingers around a cup of actually good coffee, he was watching me like he was solving a puzzle. Then he hit me with a story I never expected. "You know, your dad and I used to sleep in a car too," he says. I almost spit out my coffee. Uncle Marcus, the rich guy in fancy suits, and my dad, had once been in my shoes. Mom worked 3 jobs, and they barely scraped by. He showed me an old photo on his phone of him and my dad as teenagers, eating beans from a can in a beat-up van. "That's your dad on the left," he says. And yep, that same goofy smile I remembered. As he told me all this, I sat there, mind blown, trying to wrap my head around the whole thing. If you haven't yet, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more crazy real-life stories happening around you. So, how do we go from being homeless teens to, well, this? That's when he spills the beans about the laundromat. The old owner used to let them chill inside on those freezing nights. They'd lend a hand fixing machines, cleaning up, doing whatever needed to be done. When the owner fell ill, he wanted to sell them the place. My dad had just started college on a scholarship, but Uncle Marcus was grinding away in construction, saving every dime. So, the owner basically gave it to him for next to nothing. That was his first piece of property. Then Uncle Marcus starts pulling out these old papers from his desk, property deeds, contracts, business plans, all marked up with my dad's notes in the margins. When my dad got sick, Uncle Marcus says, he made me promise 2 things, look after you and make sure you learn to look after yourself. Then he gives me this knowing look and says, gotta admit, you're doing better at the second part than I expected. I'm sitting there trying hard not to cry, and honestly, I'm failing big time, when he hits me with the real kicker. Turns out, he owns like half the block around the laundromat now. Apartment buildings, stores, even that dodgy phone repair place. He's been keeping an eye on me through the security cameras the whole time, sending his guys in the SUV to watch over me. You worked 2 jobs without complaining, he says. Kept your grades up. Found ways to survive that most people wouldn't think of. Even kept that laundromat running better than the manager I hired. He actually smiled as he said that last part. Jerry told him I fixed the quarter machine when their own maintenance guy couldn't figure it out. And then he hands me this key. Says it's for the apartment above his office. A full-on studio apartment I didn't even know existed. He tells me it's mine, no rent, as long as I keep working at the laundromat and keep my grades up. I tried to refuse, it felt too much like a handout. But he shut that down fast. This isn't charity. It's an investment. You've got your father's brains and your own kind of grit. I'm investing in that. Then he shows me this massive file. He's got copies of my school records, work reports from Jerry, even screenshots of those embarrassing TikToks Michael and Rebecca posted. They thought they were making fun of me, but he saw someone who wouldn't break. It's weird, thinking he was always this cold, distant guy who let his wife walk all over me. Turns out, he was testing me. It was a pretty messed up way to do it, but I get it now. He wanted to see if I had what my dad had, the drive to keep pushing forward no matter what. Before I left his office that night, he told me about his last chat with Dad at the hospital. Dad made him promise not to just hand me everything on a silver platter. Said I needed to learn to be strong on my own first. But Uncle Marcus added that Dad also said to know when enough was enough. And he told me, kid, you've more than proved yourself. That night, I stayed in a real bed for the first time in ages. The apartment wasn't fancy, just a room with a kitchenette and a bathroom, but it was warm, clean, and safe. The morning after I moved into the new apartment, I woke up to my phone buzzing with texts from Aunt Lisa. Apparently, Michael drove by the laundromat on his way to school and saw me coming down from the upstairs apartment. He took pictures, of course. Aunt Lisa shows up during my shift, wearing her fancy workout clothes and ready to blow a gasket. She starts yelling about how I'm trying to steal her husband, accusing me of seducing him or something. Like, seriously, Aunt Lisa? I totally seduced him by being homeless and fixing washing machines. Super sexy, right? Everyone was staring. And this one older lady, who comes in every Wednesday to wash her cat's blankets, actually started filming the whole thing on her phone. Aunt Lisa rambled on about how she always knew I was trouble, how I'm just like my mother, trying to take advantage of rich men. I was just standing there, gripping a mop in my gross work uniform, thinking, is this for real? Then Jerry comes out from the back room and tells Aunt Lisa she needs to leave or he'd call the cops. She left but not before telling me this wasn't over. That night, I could hear Lisa and Uncle Marcus having a massive argument upstairs in his office. Their voices were muffled, but I could hear Aunt Lisa screaming about that girl and how dare you. I felt terrible, like I'd wrecked their marriage. Found out later Aunt Lisa crashed at a friend's place that night. When I saw Uncle Marcus the next morning, he looked exhausted and just gave me this tired nod. But the odd part is, my mom suddenly started calling me for the. So, after ages of radio silence, Mom suddenly drops by, acting all worried. Sweetie, I've been hearing some troubling stuff, she says, like she has any right to pretend she cares after ditching me. I'm almost sure it was Rebecca who fed her these rumors. Next thing I know, she's standing in my cram studio apartment with Derek, her new hubby, tagging along. Mom's rocking one of her fancy designer outfits, and she's giving my place a once-over. Oh, honey, she says, but it sounds more like she's judging than caring. This is, quaint. Meanwhile, Derek hangs back by the door, like he's afraid being broke might be catching. What are you doing here? I ask, not even bothering to offer them a seat because there's practically nowhere to sit unless they're okay with perching on my unmade bed. Mom starts pacing, and then she drops this bomb. We've been hearing things about you and Uncle Marcus. The way she says it makes my stomach do a flip. What about Uncle Marcus? Come on, sweetie, she tries for this knowing smile. I know what you're up to. It's clever. I would have never thought of it at your age. I'm totally confused. Thought of what? Getting close to Marcus? Working at his business? Playing the part of the poor, abandoned niece? I'm sure he's promised you quite a bit. It hits me like a cold splash of water. You think I'm trying to get his money? I ask, stunned. Well, aren't you living here, working at that laundromat, and spending all that time with him? It seems pretty obvious. I can't help but laugh, though it comes out harsh and bitter. Obvious to who, exactly? You? The person who sent me off to Chicago and then forgot about me? That's not fair, she counters, but we both know the truth. No, you know what's unfair? You ghosted when Dad died. Then you married Derek, what, like 10 months later. Packed me off to Aunt Lisa's like I was an old couch that clashed with your new decor. I was grieving, she insists, but she's more interested in her shiny new watch than in looking at me. You were upgrading, I shoot back. Trading up for a fancier life with your real estate husband and fancy charity events. And now you're worried I might scoop up some of Uncle Marcus's cash before you? Derek decides to step in, trying to play the authoritarian. Now listen here, young lady. Your mother and I are really concerned about your well-being. My laughter erupts again, uglier this time. Where was this concern when Aunt Lisa charged me rent at 15? When I was juggling 2 jobs and crashing in my car. Mom waves it off, don't be dramatic. Lisa would never. But I cut her off. Check my hospital records from when I caught bronchitis sleeping in that car. Check my pay stubs from the gas station and laundromat. Check the rent receipts Lisa made me keep. Oh, wait, you can't. Too busy posting yacht party pics to even answer my calls. That's ancient history, she brushes it off, fiddling with her enhanced wedding ring, Dad's ring now upgraded with bigger diamonds. We're here to help now. Derek knows someone who runs a great boarding school in Switzerland. Now you want to help? I ask, my voice rising. Or are you just worried Uncle Marcus is showing me the ropes? Scared I might actually learn something, get a piece of what you think is rightfully yours? Mom's face hardens, dropping the concerned mother facade. Marcus was your father's brother. Anything of his should go to me. His ex-wife, I correct, who remarried less than a year after he died. I deserve, she starts, but I cut in again. You deserve? Dad helped build this business. He and Uncle Marcus started with nothing. While you're off planning charity galas with Derek, I'm here learning how to fix machines, do the books, actually helping people like Dad did. Your father was just a teacher, she snaps, belittling his role. He dabbled in Marcus's business like it was a hobby. Get out, I say, pointing to the door. Go back to your perfect life with your perfect husband. Go plan another gala. Go put those family photos away because they don't match your aesthetic. Just leave. Derek tries again. Now see here. No, you see here, I interrupt, surprisingly steady. I know exactly why you're both here. You heard I'm working with Uncle Marcus and it freaked you out. Scared I might actually earn something you think is yours. But here's the thing, I'm not you. I'm not after anyone's money. I'm here because Uncle Marcus gave me a shot when you threw me away. Mom turns red with anger. How dare you? How dare I? I fire back. How dare you come here pretending to care about me when it's your wallet you're really worried about? I walk to the door and hold it open. By the way, Mom, that pantsuit makes you look desperate. They finally leave, with Mom mumbling something about me being ungrateful, and Derek glued to his phone already. I close the door and slide down against it, shaking. Through the thin walls, I hear Mom's voice, I told you this would happen. That little gold digger is going to try to take everything. After the whole showdown, there was this weird calm for about a week. One night, while I was working, Michael burst into the laundromat, looking all freaked out. Turns out So, picture this, I was messing around with Aunt Lisa's iPad when this message pops up from someone saved as D. It just says, everything's ready for next week. Lisa, baby, we're finally going to be free. Now, Michael, being the nosy little dude he is, decides to snoop around and opens the messages. Turns out Aunt Lisa never logged out of her accounts. And guess what? D was Derek, yeah, my stepdad, Derek. Like, my mom's husband, Derek. Yikes. They'd been texting back and forth for months. Michael found a goldmine of emails, detailing this crazy plan to swipe a ton of money from Uncle Marcus' business and skip town together. They'd been at it for nearly a year. Every rent hike Aunt Lisa threw my way? Straight to some secret stash. So, Michael, totally freaked out, comes to me because he's got no idea what to do. For once, Mr. makes fun of my poor self, realizes his mom's about to pull a heist and ditch him. I called Uncle Marcus, and, trust me, a part of me wanted to just watch it all burn. After how they treated me, it would have been some sweet karma. But Uncle Marcus rushed to the laundromat. Michael was shaking like a leaf when he showed him all the messages. Uncle Marcus just went blank, like he short-circuited. He called his lawyer, who, it turns out, had already been eyeing some shady numbers in the business accounts Aunt Lisa was in charge of. No one had looked too hard because she was the trusted one. Spoiler, they were planning to snatch $4.3 million. They'd already funneled almost $1 million off to offshore accounts. And get this, some of that dough came from Michael and Rebecca's college funds. Their own mom was out here robbing them to run off with my stepdad. Uncle Marcus got a whole squad of lawyers and accountants digging through everything. They uncovered these fake companies Aunt Lisa set up. She'd write checks for maintenance or supplies, but the money just vanished into more secret accounts. Meanwhile, Aunt Lisa was still strutting around on Instagram with her workout pics, and running the PTA like she's this perfect mom. Derek, on the other hand, was playing the devoted husband, showering my mom with gifts and taking her to charity gigs. The lawyers said we needed more evidence before going all in on them. But Rebecca stumbled on everything on the iPad, too. She showed up at my place, mascara running down her face from crying, asking if she could crash at mine. It was the first time she didn't have a cushy spot to sleep. It was kinda surreal having her there. The same girl who mocked me for being homeless was now in the same boat. She slept on my cramped futon, used my cheap shampoo, and borrowed my Target clothes, constantly apologizing for being such a jerk. But watching her realize that money doesn't make you decent was kinda satisfying. Uncle Marcus had his IT folks tracking every single account, keeping tabs on every move. We were gonna catch them just before they tried to make a run for it. But Aunt Lisa must have sensed something because she started moving cash like crazy. The next morning was Michael's 18th birthday party. Aunt Lisa had gone all out with this big shindig at their house, with a DJ, catering, and even mini golf in the backyard. She was being super nice, probably thinking it was her last hurrah. Uncle Marcus decided the party was the perfect time to drop the bomb, when everyone was there, and the evidence was airtight. Rebecca asked if we should warn my mom first, but Uncle Marcus was like, nah. He wanted her raw, unfiltered reaction to see if she was involved. The morning of Michael's party was super weird. Aunt Lisa's running around with centerpieces and catering, all while plotting her escape. Rebecca and I helped set up, knowing everything was about to go nuclear but trying to play it cool. Michael looked like he was gonna hurl every time his mom hugged him. Uncle Marcus had it all planned out. His lawyer would swing by with some urgent paperwork during the party. They'd gather everyone in the living room and lay out all the evidence. And, wait for it, the FBI was like, down the street. Yeah, for real. Because stealing millions and planning to skip town is totally their jurisdiction. My mom showed up, all hyped about the party. We hadn't talked since she tried to ship me off to boarding school in Switzerland, but she was acting like it was all good. Derek swaggered in with this massive gift. Turns out, it was some high-end gaming system. Maybe he thought he could buy Michael's silence? Who knows? The party kicked off at 2 p.m. with a parade of rich kids arriving in their BMWs and Mercedes, good old parents' money. The DJs. So there was this party going on with music and people swimming in the pool. Everything seemed totally normal except for Rebecca. Michael and I were just chilling, watching Aunt Lisa and Derek being all secretive with their phones. Then, around 4 p.m., this lawyer guy shows up looking all serious, carrying a huge folder. The look on Aunt Lisa's face was priceless. I wish I could have snapped a pic. Anyway, they got everyone together in the living room. Some of Michael's friends tried to stick around, but Uncle Marcus was all like, family only, and they scrammed pretty quick. My mom was complaining about the party being interrupted until the lawyer started spreading papers on the coffee table. There were bank statements, emails, transfer records, even photos of Aunt Lisa and Derek, all from a private investigator. The room got super quiet with each paper he laid down. Then he played a recording of Aunt Lisa and Derek laughing and talking about their plans, saying everyone was clueless. My mom froze when she heard Derek's voice. Aunt Lisa tried to say the recording was fake, but Uncle Marcus whipped out her iPad and started reading their texts out loud. Then all hell broke loose. My mom went after Derek, hitting him with her purse, which had a ton of metal stuff in it, by the way. Aunt Lisa made a run for it, but there were FBI agents already at the door. One of them was like, "Lisa Anderson, you're under arrest for wire fraud and embezzlement." They took them away in cuffs. Derek kept shouting he had a good explanation, and Aunt Lisa cried about how we'd ruined her life, but the worst part? They didn't even look at their kids during all this chaos. Mom totally lost it, finding out Derek had been using her money too. She'd signed tons of papers without checking them because she trusted him, and he basically took everything she had from Dad's life insurance. The weeks after were nuts. The FBI found even more dirt. Aunt Lisa and Derek had been plotting for over a year with fake passports, offshore accounts, and a whole secret life. They'd taken from everyone, the business, college funds, and even charity money. During all this, Uncle Marcus watched how we handled things. Rebecca and Michael pretty much moved into my tiny apartment. We had this system going, Michael on the futon, Rebecca sharing my bed, and one bathroom for all. They both got jobs at a laundromat. Rebecca's actually great with people when she's not being mean, and Michael has a knack for fixing machines. He even solved an issue with the industrial dryer that stumped the repair guy. Mom went to rehab, not for drugs but to deal with everything. She'd been so caught up in looking perfect that she ignored all the signs about Derek. Uncle Marcus really stepped up, teaching us about the business. He wants me, Rebecca, and Michael to run it together someday. We each have our strengths. I'm good with numbers like Dad, Rebecca's all about people skills, and Michael's got a talent for machines. Last week, we visited Dad's grave together. It was the first time, and Uncle Marcus shared more stories about how Dad helped build the business while being a teacher. Aunt Lisa and Derek are in jail now, trying to pin the blame on each other, which would be funny if it weren't so sad. Michael and Rebecca are still dealing with it. It's tough learning your mom cared more about escaping with someone else than about you. But surprisingly, we're better now. Mom's facing her issues instead of hiding behind designer shades. Rebecca and Michael learned what it means to actually work for something. And I realized that accepting help doesn't mean you're weak. Sometimes I look around my life now, sitting in my laundromat office, and I'm amazed at how different everything is. Even though I lost my family in a way, I'm doing much better now. Dr. Aunt and stepdad were sneaking around, planning to take off with millions. They got busted at a birthday party, Mom had a breakdown and went to rehab, and us cousins learned a lot from working at a laundromat. Somehow, we turned into a real family. And Dad seemed to have everything figured out long before it all went down.